Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Goodness. In today's video, I'll be showing us how to make this detachable peplum. If this is something you're interested in learning, then stick with me to the end of the video. Also, if you're interested in learning how I make this bodycon dress, then I'll be posting a video on Friday by 2 p.m. But if you're watching this video in the future, then I will link it in the description box. Alright then, let's get into it. I'll be using 2 yards of my fabric and lining to achieve this for a waist of 27 inches. So this flay is a 720 degrees flay. That means it's 2 circles. So one circle is 360 degrees, so 2 of them is 720 degrees. So first of all, I would get my measurement. My waist measurement is 27 inches and the length of the peplum is 10 inches. So if you don't have just the length of your peplum, you just need to subtract the half length measurement from the full top measurement. So that will be the length of the peplum. Now, because I'm going to have 2 circles, that would mean 2 360 degrees circles. So that is 1 720 degrees flay. So the first thing I'll do is to divide my waist measurement by 2 to get the circumference of each circle. So divided by 27 divided by 2 is 13.5. So that will be the circumference I'm trying to get the radius for. Now to get the radius for this circumference, I will be dividing 13.5 by 6.28, which is a constant. So that gave me 2.14, that's approximately 2.15. So I just rounded that down to 2 inches. So I'm going to add the length of the flay, which is 10 inches, to the 2 inches which I got for the radius. So that's 12 inches plus 1 inch allowance, that will be 13 inches. So each fabric that will be folding will be 13 inches on fold on both sides. So opened up is 26 by 26. So this will be the measurement for the amount of fabric I will need for the first layer, and I'll do the same thing for the remaining 2 layers. It's necessary to do this calculation, especially if you don't have enough fabric, so that you're sure of how much fabric you would need before you start sewing. So imagine if you start cutting and then you realize your fabric is not enough. That wouldn't be good. So it's just to help you to calculate how much fabric you need before you start sewing. So I'm going to be folding for 1 circle for the first layer. So I'm folding 13 on fold on both sides. So 13 on fold on one side, and then on the other side 13 on fold. Basically like a 13 inches by 13 inches folded handkerchief. So you can cut both circles together at once, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I decided to just cut it individually. So if you're going to be cutting at once, you just need to fold double the amount you're folding, so that by the time you fold it, you should be able to accommodate 2 circles at once. Next, we'll apply the radius that we calculated initially, which is 2 inches. This is just a guide to get the circumference. If we measure and we have less or we have more, we would add or subtract depending on what you need. So I would measure the 2 inches all around the quarter circle, and then I would measure around that quarter circle. So I have 3.5. Multiply that measurement by 4 to find out how much I have for circumference. So 3.5 times 4 is 28, which is the exact measurement we need. So don't forget the waist measurement was 27, but because we're going to be joining these 2 circles together, I need allowance for joining. So if I checked it and my circumference was more, I would have reduced it a bit so that it gets to the measurement I need. But if it was less, then I would have increased that radius a bit so that it gets to the measurement I need. I hope you understand what I mean. Next, I'll apply the length of the peplum from the waist curve. So ignore that double line you see. I made a mistake with my calculation. That's why I have double lines there. So I'll start taking my waist, the length from the waist. So I have 11 inches for the length. So 10 inches for the length plus 1 inch allowance. That's 11 inches. So I'll just mark that 11 inches all around the length of this flay. Once I'm done drafting my curve, I will cut it out. And then I'll take this circle and then transfer to the second one and just replicate what I've cut out. Okay, so now I have two circles. The next thing I'm going to do is to split the circles open where I'll be joining it to each other. So I have one circle. Basically, these two circles will form one circle that will be a 720 degrees flay. The joining is going to be at the front, but if you don't want your joining to be at the front, then you can split one of your circles in two so that your joining is at the side. Okay, so now I have the circles for my longest flay. I'm going to use this to cut the circles for the other two layers. Now for the second layer, I've folded my fabric just as I folded for the first one, but I folded it all at once, so this would be able to cut out two circles for me. I'll take the first circle I already cut out and place it, ensuring that the edges are equal, and then I'll cut out the waist area. Next, I would apply the length of the flay all around the quarter circle. So this second layer, I measured 9 inches, that's including the allowance, but I eventually reduced it to 8 inches, including the allowance for the second layer. Now for the next layer, that's the shortest layer, I'll do the same thing. Fold the fabric and then use the circle to cut out the waist and then apply the length. This one I made 4 inches long plus 1 inch allowance, that's 5 inches. So now I have all 3 layers. I'll go ahead and cut out the linings as well. Next, I'm going to be cutting out the band. So the width of my band is 4 inches. So basically it's 1.5. So whatever you decide you want your band to be, you multiply that by 2 and then add 1 inch to it. So my band is 1.5 inches times 2, that's 3, plus 1 inch, that's 4. So for the length of the band, you can make it as long as you want it. Don't forget it's going to tie at the back, so you should make it way longer than your waist measurement. Ensure you're adding nothing less than 20 inches to your round waist measurement for the rope that ties at the back. So I'll just cut out my waistband. Now to sewing, the first thing I'm going to do is to attach the 2 circles to make 1 circle for both the main fabric and the lining for all 3 layers. After sewing them, I'm going to take it to the ironing table and then iron the seams open for all the layers and lining, like this. Next, I'll prepare the waistband. So the first thing I'm going to do is to iron one side 1/2 inch in. And then once I get all the way to the other side, I'll come back and then fold again by 1.5 inches or whatever you decided your waistband should be. So I'll just iron it from one side to the other. Next, I'll take the flay and attach the lining to the main fabric, and I'll sew from one end to the other at the bottom. I'll do this for each layer. Once I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the ends closed. I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew for the ends of each layer. So I've given it a good press and this is what I have. So I'll trim off the excess lining there and then sew the top together, the lining and the main fabric together. This is what it looks like pressed, trimmed and sewn together. So I've done this for every layer. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the layers and place them on each other and sew them together at the top, so at the waistline. I'll sew it from end to end, and these are the flay layers attached together. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach these layers to the waistband. First, I'll fold my waistband into 2 equal halves and then notch the center and then open it up. Next, I'm going to apply the waist measurement. So half of the waist measurement, the round waist is 27 divided by 2, that's 13.5. So I'll mark 13.5 from the center that I notched initially on both sides of that notch. So I'll mark 13.5 on one side and 13.5 on the other side to make it 27 inches. Next, I'll take the waistband and then sew the ends. So I'll turn it to the wrong side and then fold the other loose end up and then sew it. So I'll sew both ends. Next, I'll take the waistband and the flay to the sewing machine and sew the waistband to the flay from the inside, from one end to the other of the waistline I marked initially. While sewing, I'll be using my eye to gauge the flay and the length of the waistband. That's the length of the waist mark on the waistband. Something about flay is, by the time you finish sewing it, even if you measure it accurately, by the time you're joining, it's going to be excess. It's going to stretch because it's cut on bias. It will stretch. So what I do for flay is I mark the middle of the waist and I mark the middle of the flay, and then I start joining from the middle, so it's easy to control the excess. So whatever excess I have, I'll use my finger to push it a bit. It should just make a very tiny pleat that is not obvious by the time you sew. So just push it a bit so that by the time you're sewing, it is the equal length that it should be. So just go ahead and join this from one end to the other. After I've attached the waistband to the flay on one side, I'll take it back to the ironing table and fold this 1/2 inch in up to where the flay starts. So I'll fold this excess part in and then pin the waistband down from one end to the other. If you watched this video so far and it's been helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post a new video. After I'm done pinning from one end to the other, I'll take it to the sewing machine and just sew it all the way straight from one end of the band to the other. And that's it for this tutorial. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Alright guys, thank you all for watching and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!